Who dat? Welcome to the podcast you've been waiting for. Great perspective and exclusive interviews.
It's a hard job for those guys because it's happening fast.
The kind of Saints insight and fun commentary you won't get anywhere else.
We've got plenty of technology to speed things up.
It's time to kick off your Been There, Done That Saints podcast, where we hand it off to our host, Mike Nabors, and Super Bowl winning linebacker, Scott Shanle.
Proud of these guys.
All right, Saints fans. Can you figure out these New Orleans Saints? Because I don't know if we can, but welcome to another Been There, Done That podcast. I'm your host, Mike Nabors. Before I bring in my partners, let's talk about our new title sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook, coming soon to Louisiana. It won't be long until you can bet on all your favorite sports from the comfort of your own home. To celebrate, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving customers $100 in free bets when you sign up before they go live. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code DONEDAT Podcast, DONEDAT Podcast, when you sign up. Those who sign up right now will get $100 in free bets to use once mobile sports betting hits Louisiana. That's code DONEDAT Podcast to get $100 in free bets instantly, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-877-770-STOP. 21 and over, Louisiana only. Availability varies by parish. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full terms and conditions. So we love having DraftKings on board as a sponsor. And I bring in producer Justin Thomas, and I bring in my co-host Scott Shanle. And Shanle, my question to you, are you going to come out of retirement and play receiver in Nashville against the Titans this week?
No, I think I could maybe run a 5-yard stop route, but the problem is I'm going to get blown up after I catch it. So I have to make a business decision.
What in the world is going on with these Saints? They're 4-1 on the road. We're getting to the road record, which is very good, by the way. But Shanle, they're 1-2 at home, and I think you could look at this two ways. Before the year, if you would have said after 8 games, I would take 5-3, but I would never have thought 2 of the 3 would be the friggin' Giants and the Falcons. What's going on?
That's exactly right. I love that they blew out the Packers, but it was week 1. Teams changed a lot by then. They get up for Tampa Bay. They've owned Tampa Bay outside the playoff loss last year. But, you just mentioned the 2 teams that have beat this Saints team. It'd be one thing to go on the road and lose to these 2 bad teams they lost to. But my frustration is we have not defended the Dome. We have not played well. I know last year we didn't have fans, but this goes back to even last year and the playoff loss at home to Minnesota, to the Rams. Like, we are not defending the Superdome. And for years, we always talked about we do not lose in front of our fans. And I don't see the same energy. I think my frustration with this team lies in I don't see the same energy at home that I do on the road. And I don't understand it.
Justin likes to point this out, and I thought he was crazy last week. But when we all 3 of us bet the Saints are going to win, what happens, Justin?
We lose.
And it happened again last week.
It happened again last week. It was so – thought we were all in so agreement. We started doing the spread. We're like, hey, let's just throw the spread out because we got to make this more interesting. And then Matty Ice shows up. Yeah.
We're all about the draft. But Justin, how surprised were you with that Falcons loss? Crazy.
I'm surprised, and I don't know. I don't know if this team is schizophrenic. It's like they're up one week, down another. I can't figure it out. I don't know if they just lack in some kind of identity. It's confusing. The fact that they can beat really good teams, but then play down to the competition.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Well, Nashville is the next destination. We're going to talk about the Tennessee Titans. We're coming off a huge win against those LA Rams without Derrick Henry. Maybe you can make an argument they're the best team in the NFL right now, but they've been up and down. And here's the thing, Shanle. There's always parity in the NFL. I've never seen it quite like this, though. I mean, you see the Titans blow out the Rams. You see the Jaguars beat the Bills. I mean, that should make the Saints feel normal. You shouldn't feel good after a Falcons loss, but I'm seeing it more and more this year.
Yeah, and we're to that point in the season. The middle of an NFL season or close to, it becomes a grind. It's hard. Everybody's beat up. Physically, they're aching. There's bumps and bruises. So mentally, can you get yourself up the same way every single week, especially when you're winning games? Can you go and play these bad teams with the same energy level? Because everybody has talent in the NFL. And I think that's why what's uncharacteristic is you saw so many in one weekend. That's what was really a surprise. Is it was boom, 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 boom. It wasn't just like a one-off thing. But, I remember the years we were really good. We go to a winless Rams team and lose. And there's games like that where mentally you're just down because nobody's paying attention to your game. You think you can roll the ball out there and win a game. And you're quickly reminded in the NFL that everybody has world-class football players and you can lose on any given weekend. And That's what happened last week.
Yeah, it's unbelievable what's going on in the NFL right now. But it would have been so Saints this year if they would have pulled out that game late against the Falcons. As bad as they played, to come back and win that, it would have been kind of, to me, a microcosm of the season in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there's no question. This team has been. They started off with their best win of the year against Green Bay. Green Bay is now playing the way Green Bay is what they are now, what we thought they were at the start of the season. So our level of excitement got way too high to start the season, and then it got knocked off when we lost to the Giants. Then we come back, we beat the Buccaneers, and so somewhere in there lies the truth. I think the truth is the Saints team is a good team, but they're not a great team, and they're not good enough to go out there and just go through the motions and beat teams. Maybe in the past couple of years they've been a great team and they could get away with playing bad, but they've shown they have to be on their A game every single week. Take care of the football, get turnovers, tackle well on defense. If the defense doesn't show up, it's probably going to be a long Sunday, a lot of Sundays.
Well, speaking of the end of the game, Trevor Siemian had some big plays. I thought Trevor Siemian played good in that game. He should have been 8 of his first 9. Saints wide receivers had 5 drops. Anybody who's criticizing Trevor Siemian really didn't watch that game closely, Shanle, because he's not setting the world on fire, but he's playing good enough football where this offense should win games.
There's no question. You look at Trevor and I'm sure a huge part of the Saints Nation is like, well, can we win a Super Bowl with Trevor? They're looking at the whole picture. But last week, he didn't do anything that I felt like lost the game. He had so many other guys around him play so bad that you lost sight that Trevor was the quarterback. The receiver's got to catch a ball. Tight end's got to catch a ball. You can't do that to a guy making his first start in years, and a guy who, by all accounts, the team has hitched their wagon to. Like, this is the guy that's going to be our quarterback. So if you're a receiver out there, you have to step up and make plays. Defense, you have to step up and play better than you've played at any point in the year, not let Matt Ryan look like MVP Matt Ryan. So I thought Trevor played well, maybe not great, but Trevor did enough to help us win last week, and the rest of the team didn't help him out.
The offense needs playmakers, and there's not many. Do you want Odell Beckham Jr. on this football team? Would that be good for this football team?
In past years, I would say no, but right now, I think they need so many. They need a playmaker. You just said it, Mike. They need a playmaker. They need a guy who, besides Alvin Kamara, a defensive coordinator goes in and says, how are we going to stop this guy? What do we have to do defensively to make sure this guy doesn't beat us? And right now, the Saints don't have that guy. Alvin Kamara, when he's healthy, we'll see if he's going to play this week. There's reports he's banged up. But that's the only reason I would sign Odell. And I would sign Odell for a 1-year deal. I don't think we need Odell around here for 3 or 4 years, especially if Michael Thomas is coming back. And especially when you don't know who your quarterback is going in the future. You have to have an established veteran to have Odell on your team, I think.
All right, Shanle, we debate Taysom Hill all the time. Is he a quarterback? Justin agrees with you. He's not a quarterback. But this offense needs more Taysom, doesn't it, right now?
No question. It just carries over into the statement I just made. Why I would sign Odell is because they don't have enough playmakers. Taysom Hill, I went after him for not being a quarterback. Some people, Mike, you've been in his side as he could be a franchise quarterback. But he is a heck of a football player. He's a hell of a football player.
Absolutely.
And you got to have this guy on the field. And if he's healthy, I know he had a concussion. You got to be smart with that. I don't care where he plays. Put him at wide receiver, put him at fullback, tight end, quarterback for 20 plays. I don't care. He has to be on the field because, oddly enough, even though he's not a starter per se, defensive coordinators spend a lot of time telling their defense, watch out, we're number 7. You have to know where number 7 is. And when you do that, you give other guys on the offense a chance to make plays because they're so worried about him.
Well, here's the thing about Beckham, too, is you would hope at this point in his career, after what he went through in Cleveland, and especially if he would come home to New Orleans, he would be hungry to not only show that he is the player everybody thinks he can be, but to do it in his hometown. I mean, you would hope that he would have that inside of him, Shanle.
Yeah, sometimes it goes both ways. Like, sometimes guys are reborn again when they go home and they're around everybody that they grew up with, their family. Then sometimes it can be a hindrance. Like, you go home, now everybody wants something from you. They want tickets. They have all these things because now they have easy access. So it really goes to what type of personality, what type of structure the guy has off the field. So that dynamic has always been interesting to me. Sometimes it helps guys to go home. Sometimes it hurts them to go home. And the other thing is, I know Odell's from there, but is Odell too big of a star? Does he need the bright lights of LA? Does he need the New York Jets? Does he need a big city because he's such an off the field big brand and personality? But that's where the 3 teams are remaining. None of these 3 teams, the Saints, the Chiefs, the Packers, all being reported, none of these are big markets. So maybe he just wants to win.
Well, to me, it's same, but yet it's different with Tyrann Mathieu because obviously he had a lot of off the field problems, more so than Odell Beckham Jr. did at LSU. So you thought the best place for him is not New Orleans. It would be to go to a place like Arizona, which ended up being the case. But yeah, it's different with Odell Beckham Jr. because it's I agree though it could go both ways. It could be really ugly, but it could be really good for this football team because I'm amazed with what Sean Payton has done. I mean, we talked about it last week. I mean, Marquez Callaway leads this team in catches besides Alvin Kamara in terms of wide receivers, and he's like 108th in the NFL. I mean, how is Sean Payton doing this, Shanle? I mean, Kamara is not lighting the world on fire like he did a year ago. You got Trevor Siemian as your quarterback, and you got a 5-3 football team who very well could be 6-2 right now.
Well, simply put, he's one of the greatest play callers and offensive minds that our game has ever seen. And when it's all said and done, Coach Payton retires, I think people will give him that credit. I think they do. But, everybody looks at Bill Walsh and what he did for the game of football, what he brought at the West Coast offense and how revolutionary it was. Maybe Sean Payton didn't maybe he didn't change the way we view football like the West Coast offense did. He took the West Coast offense, he integrated some of his own stuff. But when you look at what he's been able to do over his entire head coaching career, and that in itself is a tremendous feat. Being a head coach and being an offense coordinator is not easy. And to be able to do both of those well, I think we will look at Coach Payton. He's a Hall of Fame coach, but he will be one of the greatest offensive minds we've ever seen because of that.
And Coach Payton loves Drew Brees, Shanley, but I think he's shown not only this season, but really the last couple seasons when Drew went out, that it's not just Drew Brees. I mean, it's a collaborative effort. It was both those guys, which makes me think even more about Brees' career. Everybody, always has that hypothetical if he would have gone to Miami and Nick Saban and everything, but it really shows how great they both work together. It does.
Yeah, for sure, and that's part of what we do in the media world is we always want to say who deserves more credit, who gets more credit for the success, and I'm always going to lean towards the player, and we've kind of seen that in New England with Tom Brady's success leaving because yes, there are great coaches, but great coaches usually have great players with them. No different than Peyton Manning. He goes from Indy to Denver. Automatically, he makes Adam Gase a head coach who nobody knew who Adam Gase was. So I always lean on the side of the player being the reason. But both Coach Payton and Drew Brees needed each other at the moment that they were paired. I mean, Drew, his career was teetering. We've heard him say that many times. It was just a match made in heaven. Their ideas, the way they saw the game, their work ethic, their love for the game, it was just a perfect match. And a lot of times you don't get that.
And here's another notch on his belt for Sean Payton. The road record for the Saints, everybody talks about, they can't win outside the dome and all that stuff. No, it's not true. Since 2018, the Saints have the best road record in the NFL, ladies and gentlemen. They're 24-5. Okay, 2018 on the road, 7-1. 2019 on the road, 7-1. Last season, 6-2. This year, 4-1. Shanley, they have 5 road losses since 2018. And with COVID, 2018 seems like 20 years ago. That's unbelievable. It's incredible.
Yeah, well, because the easy narrative with a dome team is to always say they're soft, they play indoors, they don't like elements, they can't adjust when they go away from the dome. That's the low-hanging fruit and the easy debate that people always use without looking at the numbers. And that's why it's great that you have the numbers right there because the narrative, in fact, this team has been a better road team than a home team, I believe. They play with more energy. They play with more intent. They play with more focus. And they've been road warriors. They've gone to a lot of difficult places. And the weather doesn't matter. They've been able to find different ways to win. And that's the one thing, go back to talk about Coach Payton as a great coach, is maybe in his first 10 years at New Orleans, that wasn't the case. But within these last 5 years, and as Drew Brees declined because he aged, he found different ways to win. And I think that took him to another level in his coaching.
Yeah, but it's crazy. What do you attribute this to? Because when you played, you guys couldn't lose at home, and now it seems like they can't lose on the road. I mean, how has the switch been flipped with this franchise? It's crazy.
Well, I think a lot of it is because the identity of this team has changed. Early on, we weren't great on defense. Our offense was high flying, great, threw the ball all over the lot, and so because of that, you need good elements. You need a dome. You need things like. You don't want to play in bad elements. You don't want to play in Baltimore and New York in November and December. So I think because of the identity of the team early on, we struggled with road games. But really the last 5 years, this has been a defensive team. They've been a dink and dunk offense. They've been a run team. So those things travel well and play great on the road to take crowds out of the game and to play in all different elements.
Yeah, it's really, really impressive. Let's get to the Saints before we get to the Titans. Looks like Alvin Kamara is dinged up. If he doesn't go, boy, that Mark Ingram pickup looks pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And I probably didn't give that pickup enough credit when it happened because I thought this was more of a locker room. This was a leadership thing. This was a feel good. Let's make this right. It didn't end on great terms with Mark, and we need some more depth at running back. Whatever he gives us will be a bonus. But I was wrong. I saw Mark run in that first game. He came back. He is leaned down. He still has juice in those legs. He's hitting the hole as hard as he did when he left New Orleans a couple years ago. So I think that trade could end up being the trade of the NFL season during the season because what Mark gives you now, especially if Alvin's banged up, he gives you a viable veteran running back that you can lean on in games like this.
Yeah, Mark Ingram, a great pickup, one of many for that Saints front office the last couple of years. Our buddy Deuce McAllister, one of the best guys around, he's not going to be the Saints' all-time leading rusher for long, especially if Alvin Kamara didn't play this game. Mark Ingram, 19 yards behind him. Deuce is humble. Deuce is modest. But part of Deuce is going to get hurt there, isn't he? He doesn't want to let that go, does he?
No, all competitors, they will say, records were meant to be broken. That's the line. But you hate it. You do because you worked hard to get that record. It's an accomplishment. It goes in the record books. I think there will be a part of Deuce that's happy. I think a lot of guys who realize their moment is done, they did what they did, are happy for guys, especially the relationship that Deuce and Mark have. He watched Mark grow up in the system, high draft pick. So I think that in itself will make him proud that he was the guy who broke the record.
And we know how competitive Breeze is. When he was on NBC having to watch Tom Brady eclipse his passing yards, he does that. It's almost it's not a fake smile from Breeze, but I can read his mind like, oh, I'm smiling. But man, I hate letting go of that record. You know, Breeze hates letting go of records. Absolutely.
For sure. And especially when you're done playing, you can't work harder to reclaim those records. You can't break other records. So I think the older you get, when your play is declining or you're done, it gets a little difficult because you know how much work went into getting those records for yourself.
You know, it's funny. The one record I think that may hold, but I don't put anything past Tom Brady, is that consecutive games with a touchdown. I think Breeze had 54 breaking Unitas' mark that stood for decades. And I asked Breeze about it when we taped our CST special with him back in August. And it's funny how competitive he is because he lost – the streak ended against the Atlanta Falcons for Breeze. And we talked about it. I said, I think you're going to keep that record for a while. And Breeze says, no, I think Mahomes will break it. And then he kind of went further and broke down the game where the streak ended. Oh, I had that pass to Sproles. I should have completed it. And you know what? If we would have had that, the next 20 games I had a touchdown pass, I should have had, that still drives him. Games like that looking back. I mean, that's what makes guys like you and everybody who played great.
Well, yeah, it's just the internal competitor. And I've always said with the NFL is being able to work with young guys, college guys getting ready for the draft, linebackers. For the most part, I feel like I've been a pretty big success in identifying guys who can become great pros because money changes people. If you don't love competition, and I've seen guys play really good in the NFL for a long time who didn't even love football. But if you don't love competition, you will not make it in pro sports. You will not make it in the NFL. It is an attrition league where you're going to get banged up. You're going to get beat up mentally, physically. It is a long grind. Is the pay great? Yes. Financially, you can set your family up for life, but you lose sight of why you were there, because when guys start collecting checks when they don't play well, or guys are still collecting checks when they lose, they quickly find out that it has nothing to do with them loving the game or being a competitor. So I've always been impressed with guys like Drew, guys like Tom Brady, guys who can do it at such a high level for such a long time where they're getting paid a lot of money. It's not about the money. It's about being a competitor. It's about bettering yourself and being better every single day. There's not many people like that walk around the face of the earth, to be honest.
Yeah, it's very unique. We saw Breeze and Brady play against each other. I don't know if we'll ever see things like that again, but who knows? We always there's always a new generation, but that was definitely a special time to watch all of that. All right, let's talk about the matchup against the Titans. Defensively, you talked about putting the pressure on Tannehill. Derrick Henry's not going to play in this game. They're going to have 80-year-old Adrian Peterson toting the rock, who actually scored a touchdown. The former Saint for about 5 minutes is going to look to get a lot of carries for the Titans. But what do you want to see from this defense against the Titans on Sunday, Shanle?
Well, no Derrick Henry, so obviously you would think the ball can't get run on this defense, especially when this defense has been good at stopping the run. But this is about matchups. This is about you put a lot of money. Marshawn Lattimore is a premier corner. You have Adebo. Is Adebo going to be the guy on the other side, or is Roby going to finally get some playing time? You went and you traded for him. Everybody thought Roby was going to be the other corner. You solidified the secondary. Well, now you're going to be matching up with Julio Jones and A.J. Brown. You have to do your job. You have to take care of those guys, take those guys out of the game. Our pass defense was not good last week against Atlanta. And Tannehill, he can make plays with his legs. So this game is going to come down to Tannehill and his legs and the two receivers he has on the outside. I don't believe their running game is good enough to beat the Saints defense, but it's going to come down to Marshawn Lattimore and Roby/Adebo on the outside.
Well, to me, beating a team like the Rams the way they did without Derrick Henry, and I know they've lost to the Jets, and man, this league is crazy, crazy, crazy. That's why DraftKings loves it, because you never know what the heck's going to happen every week. But here's the thing. I don't really understand the Titans, to me. Do you think that they could be the best team in the NFL, or is that too much just based on it's a week-to-week league right now? But I mean, to me, that was maybe the most impressive win of the season so far, to do it without Derrick Henry, and the Rams are a good football team.
Yeah, I think the Rams are, but this is the NFL. This is the problem with the NFL and how we week to week, it's almost like we want the NFL to have a college AP system, top 25. But the problem with that is 2 weeks ago, the Rams were the best team in the NFL because they beat the Buccaneers. Then last week, everybody was telling me why the Buffalo Bills were the best team in the NFL, and they were going to the Super Bowl, and they were going to win the Super Bowl. Now it's like it's flavor of the week, and now the Tennessee Titans are back here because they beat the Rams. Well, the Tennessee Titans also lost to the Jets, and they also lost to me, the MVP of the NFL, and Derrick Henry. So I cannot put Tennessee is the best team in the NFL for that reason alone. I think they're a streaky team, but because they don't have Derrick Henry, their best player, I can't say that they're the best team in the NFL right now.
All right, let's flip the switch. Saints offense, got to catch the football. I think you got to get Taysom Hill more involved. We'll see how Kamara's injury plays out with Mark Ingram taking over potentially. But how do you see that matchup? How much do you know about this Titans defense against the Saints offense?
The Saints defense is physical. The one thing Mike Vrabel, the head coach for the Titans, obviously used to play for Bill Belichick and the Patriots, he's built this defense in that image. They have big bodies. They are physical. They've been streaky too, just like their offense has been up and down. Their defense has been a little bit streaky. They were banged up earlier in the year, but they have big physical players. And for the Saints to match up with that, it could be a low-scoring game. The Saints' offensive line is the strength of this offense right now. They have to play well. They have to be able to run the ball. They have to control the clock. They have to be able to control this pass rush that gave the Rams fits. So defensively, the Titans are going to be a big, fast, physical group, much like we saw out of the Patriots when Vrabel was a player there.
Yeah, it's going to be a very physical game in a lot of ways. Two really good football teams. Two teams have had their share of injuries. But you know what? Before we say goodbye, we have predictions coming up. And Justin, you know what time it is. More likely, 3 hypotheticals. We bring back Justin Thomas. We put him in the driver's seat to go first. Then Scott Shanle, then I'll weigh in. We've touched on some of these players for the New Orleans Saints, but my first more likely, Justin Thomas, who's been the most disappointing Saint this year. You could go off the board, but I have 3 candidates. I have Bradley Roby because I thought he would take over. Adebo's kind of held him off. I have Marquez Callaway, who was Mr. Preseason, but he's been more Mr. August than Mr. September, October, November. And you have Adam Troutman, who was kind of hailed as that heir apparent. They get rid of Jared Cook, and you think he's going to be the guy. But you could go off the board. But I have Roby, I have Callaway, and I have Troutman.
I'm trying to think real quick any other players I could go off the board with.
There's been so many disappointments that Justin.
Shanley's licking his chops on this one.
So true. I'll stick with your 3. I think, look, Callaway was a free agent. Undrafted free agent. So I'm not too shocked by, his lack of production. Although I did expect more from him this season. I thought he would have a better, or at least a more consistent season. And then your other 2 were Troutman. I have to be honest. I am a little disappointed with Troutman, but it seems like ever since Jimmy Graham left, we've struggled at the tight end. I mean, Jared Cook,
Well, Ben Watson was good.
I was going to say Ben Watson was the only one who was very consistent, but since then we've brought in lots of free agents, Colby Fleener and others, and
Colby Fleener.
It just never seems like it's worked out at the tight end position. I think of the three, Roby, to me, I guess I would go with him. I did think he would play a more prominent role in that starting position. I mean, I guess that goes to show how good we are at drafting, that Adebo seems to, as of now, kept him at bay. But
or that Roby's not as
good as we thought. Yeah. But yeah, I think I don't know. The defense is playing so well. I think we need more offensive weapons. So it sucks that Troutman hasn't played to the potential they saw. But as we saw, I mean, with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson not playing last week, it seemed to hurt significantly. So maybe we can't afford to have any players not playing as well on defense.
I have two takeaways from Justin's comment, Shanle. If they pick up Odell Beckham, I want to just ask Sean Payton if I can go to a few practices to see Odell Beckham and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson go at it a few times. That'll be fun to watch. But how about a Colby Fleener reference in the podcast, just out of nowhere? I like that too. Shanle, biggest disappointment, you go off the board, but I have Bradley Roby, Marquez Callaway, and our man Adam Troutman.
All good choices, but I think Justin did a good job breaking it down, so I don't think I'll need to be as long because, like he said, with Callaway, it's not his fault he was thrust into being a number one. He's not. He's an undrafted kid, and he filled in great last year, but you're asking a lot of him. And then we have quarterback issues. We're figuring out if Jameis or Taysom. Then we figure out it's Jameis, and Jameis gets hurt. Now Trevor Siemian. So I'm not going to go after any of the wide receivers. Defensively, Roby should be playing more. I don't know quite what's going on there. And a lot of times teams will draft kids and they want to give them every opportunity to play because obviously that's your draft pick. So I think that's kind of what's going on there, why Adebo's getting a little more playing time. But Adebo's been playing pretty good besides that one play last week. For me, it's Troutman. Troutman was a guy who was drafted high. And like Justin said, our tight ends have always been prominent in this offense. He was supposed to be the heir apparent. He was supposed to be the guy in waiting. Couldn't wait to get rid of Jared Cook, Mr. Fumble, Mr. I can't hold on to the ball or catch the ball when there's somebody near me. So everybody's waiting for Troutman. And I was in that
Shanle, you like doing the Jared Cook fumble thing as much as you like to rip the Falcons. Because
you know why, Mike? Because the Buccaneers would not have won a Super Bowl had he not fumbled
exactly.
that ball.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I just like the joy in your voice.
Trust me. It is. I laugh to stop myself from crying because had he not fumbled that ball, I don't know if the Saints would have won the Super Bowl. But I definitely know the Buccaneers would have won the Super Bowl. So I think that's why I'm so upset about it. But going back to Troutman, he was drafted. I heard references when he was drafted out of our organization that he was the next Jason Witten type. They reminded him of Jason Witten. All I know is I played with Jason Witten. Jason Witten played a long time. And the one thing Jason Witten never did was drop a ball. And Troutman, I don't know what's going on. He needs to get this figured out because if he's a big enough guy to do it and he's a fast enough guy to do it, then he has to figure out how to be able to catch the ball. Otherwise, it all doesn't matter. And with this offense being a running offense and having no receivers on the outside, the tight end has to be a prominent guy. He has to be an 8 to 10 catch guy a week. And so I'm very disappointed in him.
You know, it's funny. The greatness of Tom Brady is deserved. But yeah, if Jared Cook catches that ball and they get a field goal or a touchdown, Brady never wins and does the remarkable things he did a year ago. And that's I'm getting off tangent here. But yeah, that play was pivotal in so many ways. And you got to give the Bucs credit for making that play. But Jared, yeah, that was I have the same passion. I'm not ripping you or anything, but I love hearing the energy in your voice when you refer to it. It's like when we have Falcons previews, the ante's up a little bit with Shanle. So I just
well, and I don't want to like Jared Cook's had a great career, been a great player for a long time, and it's not easy to do. But when I watch him play with the Chargers and he catches the ball and doesn't fumble, I'm like, oh, now you want to catch it, not fumble.
Yeah. Right, absolutely. Yeah, that play was huge. I got to go with Bradley Roby. I just thought, I give Adebo credit. He's made some plays, and man, he opted out at Stanford. Hadn't played a lot of football lately. I think he's going to be a decent player. But, yeah, Bradley Roby, you would think, would step in and after a couple of weeks kind of take over that job over there. So I'm disappointed that hasn't happened, especially when you see, Adebo make rookie mistakes, which he's going to do. But you wonder, man, they brought this guy in. It was such a great move. What the heck's going on? So I get the Troutman points. And Callaway, here's my thing. It's fool's gold in the preseason. He has the big game against the friggin' Jacksonville Jaguars on Monday night in a preseason game. He lights it up with Jameis, and all of a sudden we're going to anoint him as the heir apparent because Michael Thomas is out. That's fool's gold in the preseason, Shanle. You can't fall for that. You can't.
No, you can't take anything away from preseason games, and that's why every year, people in the media and we're guilty too. You watch games and you start getting attached to certain young guys or undrafted guys because the storyline. But in the preseason, a lot of defenses or a lot of offenses, they're not playing their stars the whole time. They're staying very basic. So you kind of have to take preseason for what it is.
Damn media. Just can't trust them.
Damn media.
Right. All right. More likely number 2. I don't know how you feel about this. Who's more overrated after what we saw last week? We've seen a lot of ups and downs, but who's potentially more overrated? Those Rams who were just destroyed by the Titans without Derrick Henry, or the Bills who go into Jacksonville and Bills Mafia is just blown up by Jaguar Nation who've won like 2 games in the last 50 years? Who's more overrated? The Bills, your Super Bowl pick, Justin, or the Rams, my Super Bowl pick?
I just want to say this isn't my answer, but this whole podcast, when we talked about the upsets this past week, no one mentioned the Cowboys, and that to me was one of the biggest shockers.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe they got blanked, right? They didn't score anything against a pretty good Broncos team. But anyway,
but you know why we didn't mention them, Justin? Because I do this with the Cowboys fans. Every time the Cowboys get your hopes and expectations up, they crush it.
So
everybody expected it. Everybody's like, oh yeah, there they are.
I just remember Scott picking them last week as his scariest team to face in the playoffs. But anyway.
Wow. Justin throwing the gauntlet down.
I forgot about that.
Wow.
Look, the Rams are a really good team, and the Bills are a really good team. I don't know if just last week was an anomaly and all these really good teams just went down. I want to say, to me, I'm still going to stick with the Bills. Like I said, they're my Super Bowl pick. I think they've been more consistent. I don't know if they just had a bad game. Scott mentioned it earlier in the podcast, the year that the Saints were playing really well, and then they went and played an undefeated Rams and lost. Sometimes those games happen. I think the Rams are more of the fraud than the Bills.
Okay. Shanle, what say you?
Yeah, I'm going to go between those two teams. I think the Bills, because the Bills have not really they beat Kansas City, and everybody kind of thought that was their measuring stick game. Well, Kansas City has not been good this year, like really bad. True. So I'm going to go with Bills. And the reason I think that is because the Rams, we haven't seen Von Miller play for them yet. And we have to remember he's going to be a huge piece to what they do defensively. I think McVay will get it figured out as long as Matthew Stafford does not turn back into Detroit Stafford. And I wanted Stafford in New Orleans. I think he would have been a great fit with Sean Payton.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said about all the flack that Jared Goff takes in Detroit. Matthew Stafford didn't win you anything there. Like, he didn't win a playoff. Like, he didn't do anything. He got you there a couple times. He has a lot of numbers with not a lot of accomplishments. So as long as that Matthew Stafford doesn't show up when it matters the most, I think the Rams can be the NFC representative.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the Bills too. In the nobody cares but me department, Patrick Mahomes, you're killing my fantasy team right now, brother. Just saying. I mean, my goodness. The Chiefs have kind of been exploited. And who's their defensive coordinator, Shanle? I forgot. I can't remember.
Your favorite person.
Oh, that's right. That's okay.
Yeah, he left a mark. He really did. I tell you what.
We won't go down that road. Steve Spagnuolo for you listeners out there. But anyway, I got to say the Bills because, here's the further point to me is, boy, I think the NFC is a lot better than the AFC, Shanle. I mean, boy, the NFC is stacked. And there's decent teams in the AFC, but they don't have the numbers the NFC does at all.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think to me, it's kind of even, though, because you look at the NFC East, and they don't have anything for depth. The NFC North, not really a whole lot of depth there. The NFC West is not near as good as I thought outside the Cardinals. So I think every division winner is a really good team in the NFC. But I think in the AFC, there's going to be sneaky teams that get hot. I think you could see Ravens, Baltimore or Cleveland, battling it out for that division, and one of those wild cards winning, I just think there's more depth in the AFC behind the teams that are going to win the divisions.
You just debunked my argument right in front of my eyes. Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. That's what we do in this podcast. All right, we always like to have fun with the third more likely, and They're playing in Nashville. We've talked about music on this podcast. I think Shanle, we all kind of like rock and roll, and I like kind of old school 80s stuff. And Justin's really well-rounded, not mainstream, but I don't even know how to describe your musical taste. But I don't know if we've ever taught country is my point. And you have the Grand Ole Opry, you have country music in Nashville, okay? Do you guys have a favorite country music performer of all time? Because I don't even know if you guys like country music. That's why I'm throwing it out there. Do you have a favorite country performer, singer, whatever of all time? And I really want to hear Justin's take on this because I'm thinking I don't think you have one.
I know that like country music, I think is the most popular genre of music in the U.S. I personally have never understood it. I've never liked it. I've never listened to it.
I like the precursor, and then you drop the hammer.
I don't get it. I really don't. So to answer your question, I think the only country artists I'm familiar with are the older ones, like Hank Williams and Johnny Cash, or what I don't even know if they're considered country. I think they are.
Garth Brooks, you got
No, I've never listened to them growing up. So I'm going to say no. If I were to go to Nashville, I definitely would not be going to a country, I guess, concert.
Sorry.
No, Justin, you could have just said next because this much more likely is a huge swing and a miss.
But now I want to learn more about my partners. That's what I'm trying to get to know you guys.
I would listen to almost anything besides country.
Well, that's good. That's a good podcast. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I don't know. I think I would probably just say Hank Williams since he did the Monday Night Football song. For years.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Because I'm not going to any country concert. I'm not going to anywhere where country music is being played.
Okay, so growing up in Nebraska, there's no affinity towards country growing up?
No, it's played everywhere, and that's probably the reason why I hate it, because I never liked it then.
That's awesome.
To me, it's like, how many ways can you remake a song and make a song about your pickup truck, your dog, and drinking? Like,
yes.
Wow.
That's so true.
This is why I like this segment, because I didn't know. I thought maybe we go down this path, but we went down this dirt road, and we're just getting dirtier here. So, yeah, I actually don't mind country music. Does Jimmy Buffett count as country music?
I don't think so, does he?
I don't think so either.
No? Okay, then I can't use it. I like Kenny Chesney, all right? I like Luke Bryan's pretty good. I like Luke Bryan, some of that stuff. So
yeah, now you're getting names I've never heard.
Okay, so I'm going like counter to you guys, but I just thought I'd throw that out there with Nashville. All right, let's get to predictions. It's crazy that the Saints are 5-3, and Justin and I have picked one game correctly this year, and Shanley's only picked two. So Shanley's leading. So we're going to go into the Titans and see what we think. Justin, who's going to win this game? And I believe the point spread, I think the Titans are the Saints are 5-point favorites in this game. Is that what it is? Throw down 5 on the Saints in this game?
Saints are 5-point
favorites. No, I think the Titans are 2.5.
Is it 2.5 now? Okay. Bad. All right. It's been a busy week.
I was going to say, wow, I'd be shocked.
No. I never meant favorites. I meant the points. Sorry.
I see. Look, it seems like every year the teams I think they're going to beat, they lose. And the teams I think they're going to lose too, they wind up beating. So I don't know what to do. I don't want to pick what y'all pick because then we're going to screw it up and the Saints will lose again.
Oh, you got to follow your heart, Justin. Come on,
I know.
Yeah.
Look, by following my heart, I hate to do it. I just think the Saints team, I don't know. They got too many injured people. I feel like they're lacking some kind of identity. There's pieces that seem to be working, but they can't come together as a whole. I just don't have faith in the team right now. And yes, I know the Titans lost to the Jets, but they're playing good. They're 7-2. So I'm going to go with the Titans beating the Saints. I'm going to say 27-17.
Oh, wow. Okay. Shanle, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a 2.5-point spread. I'm checking out on our friends on DraftKings right now.
Very nice.
2.5 by the Titans. Over under for total points is 44. So if I was actually going to place a bet on this game, I'd go under on the 44 points. I don't think either offense is going to combine for 44 points. I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with the Titans. It's the only reason I'm going with the Titans is because they're playing at home, and until I see the Saints throw the ball consistently And until I know what we're doing at that position going forward and feel comfortable with what we're doing at that position, I just think the home field advantage is why Tennessee wins by 3. I'm going to go 17-14.
Oh, wow. All right, the Saints are going to win this week because I'm picking the Titans too. And I don't know. Even though the Saints are 24-5 on the road since 2018, and even though the Titans don't have Derrick Henry, I agree with Justin that I just don't feel good about this football team right now. I don't feel good about the lack of playmakers. The defense is so up and down. Just a lot of question marks in this team. But that means the Saints are going to win because every time I have had conviction about them losing, they have won. That's kind of the year it's been for Sean Payton, so it would not surprise me if they won. But I think it's going to be one of those back-and-forth games, and in the end, the Titans pull away 27-23. Where are we on Twitter, Justin?
Done Dad Podcast.
You can catch us on all the platforms, Spotify, iTunes, wherever there's a podcast, you can find us. And we'd like to thank, once again, our title sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook, is coming soon to Louisiana. It won't be long, Saints fans, until you can bet on all your favorite sports from the comfort of your own home. To celebrate, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving customers $100 in free bets when you sign up before they go live. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code DUNDAT Podcast, DONEDAT Podcast, all one word, DUNDAT Podcast, when you sign up. Those who sign up right now will get $100 in free bets to use once mobile sports betting hits Louisiana. That's code DUNDAT Podcast to get $100 in free bets instantly, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-877-770-STOP. Availability varies by parish. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full terms and conditions. 21 and over, Louisiana only. Well, for Scott Shanle and Justin Thomas, congratulations, Saints. We all picked the Titans. You're going to win in Nashville. We'll talk to you next week.